I've hit the record button, Josh Brown, and this is just going to capture the moment because I'm going to say a sentence and we'll have to live with the consequences. I think Immortals Phoenix Rising is the best Ubisoft game since Far Cry 3. What do you think about that, mate?
You're mad. You're absolutely wrong in the head, Scott. You've got a sickness. I'm not even like going to hide it. You've got an actual sickness. The things you've taught me in private about your relationship with this game is not healthy, and I'm worried.
It might be playing abusive.
A stretch of this game over and over again, man. Like, I know things are very tough and we haven't got much to do, but you played the same 6-hour stretch of Immortals 3 different times now.
Yeah,
on the one hand, I suppose that means you must love it and it must be good if you're willing to do that, which is cool, I suppose. Yeah.
But the thing is, so my whole thing with Immortals is that this game still has a horrific error, at least on Series X, and probably on Series S as well, where if you do the quick resume, if you resume and you keep playing, your saves just get corrupted. It doesn't matter how, it's always at a random point as well. So at some point when you're, let's say, 6 hours from when you resumed, even if you've made multiple saves, they'll all be corrupted back into the point where you resumed the game in the first place, which in my case meant that I had all my saves corrupted when I was in the final stretch of the game, the final area, which is about a 5 to 6 hour chunk if you're combing that final area, which I was. And I got to the final boss. It was 3 a.m. and I thought all I'm going to do is see credits, and then I can be like, well, if it corrupts and it goes back to the quick resume thing, whatever, at least I've beaten the boss. I couldn't beat the boss. I kept dying, and it was, like I said, it was 3 a.m. Had work the next day, went to bed, and I put the console back on the next day, and everything had been lost. And I went back 6 hours, and I just sort of sat there going, I knew that was going to happen. And then I did it again. I did the whole 6-hour thing again. I got as far as the last boss again. And that time something else came up in real life, in the real world, where I had to leave the console, and I just crossed all the fingers, I crossed all of them. And I just thought, maybe as long as it quick resumes, I can't save again because it's corrupted again. But if it just quick resumes one more time, at least I'm in the final area. And it didn't, and it lost everything. Go on.
It's funny that you mentioned Far Cry 3 at the beginning of this, because what's the most famous quote from that game again? Isn't it that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a change, which sounds very apt for this conversation,
and hoping for a different outcome, which eventually, once I got my head, because I reinstalled Immortals, I was like, maybe if I reinstall it, and I like blip the save between the cloud save, delete the console one, put it back on, did all that, and eventually going from a fresh boot, if you just fresh boot it, don't quick resume, and then play the final 6 hours, then I finally saw credits. And then I almost bought the DLC. I was almost like, I want more of this. I'm all in. But to get back around to the reason I said the crazy thing, I think this just got their best set of game mechanics since Far Cry 3, when they pioneered the way Far Cry 3 felt. And we were all going around, sort of hunting and skinning and making different pouches and unlockables, and you were landing on 2 dudes at once. You can throw the knife, and there's all these different abilities. And it felt great. And you were on that awesome treadmill. And it was just, like, it is fun. I think that word is such a throwaway word, but it's enjoyable, and it's kinetic, and it just moves so well. And I feel like Ubisoft got so stuck in their ways, and have done for the entire 8th generation, that I champion when they do something a little bit different. And it's not that Immortals isn't a safe bet, because it's just a Fortnite version of Assassin's Creed, but it plays like an old school 2000s platformer, and it's so good. It's so good, mate.
Well, I'm not here to, be cynical or be negative, but I think it is funny that you mentioned, it's like got the best set of mechanics, that Ubisoft's created since Far Cry 3. But from an outsider, that playability and those mechanics and those systems look just like a cross of Assassin's Creed and Breath of the Wild, which is cool. That's a cool pool to choose from.
Well, the thing is that's entirely what they've scientifically gone for. Like, you can literally see them dragging the cells on the spreadsheet to make up this version of this game. Like, it literally is that. I just can't argue with how it feels.
Like, I mean, I don't think those are bad inspirations to pillage from or anything. And I'm really excited to play Immortals. I kind of wish I played it over Assassin's Creed Valhalla, because while I enjoyed that, we've talked before about how I had those 2 games lined up, and I eventually went with Assassin's Creed. You went with Immortals, and I could have been on this train with you. I could have been, also encountering this bug and playing it in 6-hour stints until 3 a.m. and then considering the DLC. Why haven't you got the DLC? Because that sounds like the safest bet.
I had to draw a line under it at some point. I had to admit that I've gone too far. I was literally sitting there after I hit credits going, I love this game. I want to do more of it, because there's so many that it's so, that's another thing. They've tried so many times to do the open world peppered with stuff to do thing. And Assassin's Creed Unity was too much. It was just like literally as if you shook out a bucket of icons on a map, and it was way too many. And I feel like with this, again, it's very Fortnite. They sort of like, redesigned the map, had this nice condensed map where it's not too big, it's not too small, but everything is really dense, and you're always coming across an unlockable, a piece of armor, a new weapon, a new ability, some coins to unlock something back at the home base thing, or a whole plethora of little miniature puzzles that they just ripped from Breath of the Wild, that you can complete whichever way you want, because you have this set of abilities. You can pick up different things. You can, like, it's the same sort of physics-based, have fun with this style mentality that Breath of the Wild had. Not done as well, but like they're cribbing from it. And so you just find yourself going like, well, I want to do like 5 things at once all the time, and it's all just really moreish and enjoyable, and like it plays so well. And I just sort of drank it in, and I think that they've tried so long to give you this treadmill of stuff to do, but it just felt like a chore. And I feel like they never nailed it. And for me, they've never nailed it down as well as they did for this, where even for Valhalla, I was like, oh my God, it's another one of these. It's going to be something where I'm not going to see all of it. I'm just going to try bits and pieces, and it's all a bit stodgy. And I'm like running all the way over here for a cutscene to do one fight, to run all the way back for something else. And it didn't really work. Whereas Immortals is like, what if we give you 5, I don't know, petit déjeuner on the way to the main course. Couldn't think of a word there for appetizers. More déjeuner, small French word for a small thing. And on the way to the main thing, and then you do the big main thing. It's a big main battle, and you go and do something else, and you're always doing bits and pieces on the way. I think I have gone slightly mad, but I did love my time with it.
I think that's a perfect kind of game for right now, because I love those experiences that you can get lost in, and it's so play driven. Like you have so much agency in how you sort of like accomplish these missions, like how you solve these puzzles. You're interacting with the world in a really interesting way. And while Assassin's Creed similarly has a lot of stuff to see and do, and you can take on mysteries, you can do side quests, you can look for wealth and stuff, I feel like to complete those missions, it's often quite rigid, and you're often kind of like railroaded into 1 or 2 specific ways to accomplish it. Whereas Immortals, and coming from the Breath of the Wild school of things, like just seems more open, feels like you're more invested in the world and you have more of an impact on it maybe. And I think those games are great for jumping in.
Yeah, sorry. There's another thing as well, is that it's really weird, because I feel like I talked about this in something else that we put out, hashtag content, something about how the late 90s embraced 3D worlds in a way that we got away from in the 2000s. Like it was, you had Tomb Raider, it was verticality, it was climbing, and same with all the platformers. It was, you were engaging with the world in a vertical space as much as you were exploring it horizontally. And I feel like ever since, Metal Gear came along and Uncharted and all these cinematically focused games that got away from climbing and getting the drop on enemies and things like that, and the stealth genre went away, so you kind of got away from aerial kills and whatever else. And it's not like some games don't do those things, but like engaging with a full 3D space was something the Breath of the Wild sort of reminded everybody of, like, hey, this is how you can do a video game that's old but new, and it feels fresh but it's old school. And Immortals it has that too, where you do have the Breath of the Wild style stamina based climbing mechanic, and you are overcoming different mountains on your way to different places. And it is so cynically made. Like it is so here's stuff that works. We're going to take these things that work and we're going to rip off the sphere in the little concave dish puzzles from Breath of the Wild. But at the heart of it, I can't argue with how it feels to play. And weirdly, it does feel like there is a kind of like a soul at the heart of it. So it's that thing where you can tell if a game has a creative team that wanted to work on this. And something like Avengers didn't feel like that, but this does. For as much as it's playing it safe, it feels like a bunch of people wanted to make this. And it is the AC Odyssey team after all anyway. And it feels fresh in that regard.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've only had literally 10 minutes with it, but from the footage I've seen on top of everything else, like it does feel like the people who made this game wanted to make this game. Like, like you said, it might be an amalgamation of a bunch of different things, but I think the Avengers is a great comparison, because when I'm playing the Avengers, I don't get the sense that the people who made it enjoy the Avengers. I think the central story is quite good, and the stuff with like Miss Marvel is obviously, that has a lot of heart to it, but so much of it just kind of feels like a team forced to make a property that they don't want. Whereas here, it's kind of like, even if the systems were like mandated, it's like, right, here the systems need to include, but everything else, like, go nuts. If you want to go down this mythological route, want to add some more comedic aspects, want to make it more kid friendly, cool, like go for it, like just enjoy yourself. And I feel like it translates.
Yeah. Sorry. You're making me think of so many different things that I just want, because the world's not going to care. Like no one cares. It's called Immortals Phoenix Rising, for God's sake. Like it's not going to do well. And it's sort of that thing where I'm like, but the combat, like all your light attacks replenish your stamina. So you're constantly building a way back up to unleash the bigger attacks. And whenever you finish a dude in like an area, they ping off the map like Team Rocket style. Like they go flying off into the horizon. Just things that you wouldn't see in, I don't know, like just, it's a cool little twist on a stamina based mechanic in an open world world action game. And then the fact that the combat has that flair where it's super slow motion while you nail some dude with an oversized mallet and they go flying into the clouds. Just, I don't know. I like it.
And please, I'm looking forward to getting to it once my open world fatigue has worn off a little bit and I have a chance to play it. No, I would have played it before, but the thing that put me off is that I've got it on the Switch, which I think might have been a mistake. I wish I got it on the PlayStation, because when I play the Switch handheld, and it didn't perform particularly well on the handheld, format, I suppose. So I'm gonna have to play it docked, which is fine, but I kind of wish if I got it on the PlayStation, I probably would have played it already. That's
the thing, is that I am playing on Series X, and it is a Series XS enhanced game, so it is 4K 60. It just goes, and like it is part of the whole just drink it all in style sort of energy that game has. But regardless of me rambling on about Immortals, just give the game a chance. I mean, I am skipping some of the cutscenes because most of the dialogue is god awful. Most of the cutscenes. What?
You are not skipping cutscenes after giving me crap about skipping Hitman 2's cutscenes. No way.
No, but that game has a known story element. This thing, it's not that I didn't give it a chance. I've been with it for like 40 hours. But by the time I got to the end, I mean, I think maybe I watched them the first time. I don't think I did. I think I was just like, I don't care what's going on between Zeus and what do you call him? The fireman, Prometheus. I just didn't give much of a crap. But there is a big twist at the end. God, that I stayed for that. I didn't skip that. There's bits and pieces, but at some point, I'm just there for the game, mate. I just old school platformer. I'm not there for anything other than the good times. But speaking of good times, would you like to talk about Ring Fit, Warzone, or Neo 2?
Let's go Neo 2, because I know. Have you started Neo 2 yet?
No, I tweeted last night because I was on the store page and I just was like, I'm about to buy Neo 2, one of the hardest games in the last few years. And I just thought of this, I just tweeted like, oh yeah, I'll play Neo 2, said the man in national lockdown. Like, yeah, okay. And so I just was like, no, I'm going to play Mario 3D World instead. And so I ended up just being Cat Rosalina, who just is everything to me. So I haven't started it yet, but I will. I absolutely will. I just don't know, man. I don't know. Tell me why I should.
Really good. You mentioned there, you're the man in national lockdown and wanting to play Neo 2. And I guess the general theme of this podcast is what have we been playing? What have we been playing to keep our mind off it and stuff? And Neo 2 has been a great game for that because it is so fun. You mentioned the combat in Immortals being like just putting you on a satisfying treadmill. And that's what I've got from Neo, like taking on these big monsters, learning these different weapons, like constantly getting the feedback of more gear, more weapons, more armor to try out and mess around with. Like that's been so satisfying. Like it takes the Souls format and gives the combat in particular just a bit more depth and a bit more complexity and more choice from the player's perspective, to the point where, it's the classic kind of friction between you going up against these really difficult enemies that can take you out in just a couple of hits. You've got limited healing items, but at the same time, you can pull off these really sick combos that result in you beheading this demon, and then you feel awesome afterwards. It has a sense of satisfaction at the end of it that I never personally, even though I want to clarify that I think the Souls games and Bloodborne and stuff are better than Neo, but in terms of pure combat, like when I'm going through this, I feel so satisfied and kind of skillful getting through combat scenarios in a way that I didn't in Bloodborne or Dark Souls or whatever. Getting through those games, I was kind of like just competent enough to get through unscathed in every single kill. It felt like a bit of skill, but it felt mostly like luck. Whereas here, I kind of know exactly what I'm doing. I know how these weapons work. I know what these attack animations are. And it's just been a joy to like sink hours and hours into it, because I'm sure it's like an 80-hour game. And I've been doing all the side missions as well. And like I haven't yet gotten bored with it, even though I'm using a similar duo of weapons all the way through. It's just, the world is lush, like the combat is so satisfying, and I'm just always excited to play more of it, even though it does kick my ass now and again. And because we are in a national lockdown, like you said, I get more frustrated at it than I usually would. I can't have anywhere to go to blow up steam, so I was playing one level the other night, man, and it was like late at night. It was like 1 a.m. And you play a level over and over again, and you just want to beat it so bad, but you're actually getting worse.
I cannot sleep, and yeah.
But like it got to the point where originally I was having a goes at like the end mini boss of a stage, but then I couldn't even get past like the first minion, and I was like, how is this guy killing me who I should be able to take out in 2 hits? And I was just done for. So there's obviously some frustration to be had there. It is a really tough game, but it's just a satisfying challenge to overcome, and it's so big and expansive.
That's what I was gonna ask. Like, because like obviously the reputation of any Soulsborn game is like you will be pounded into the ground, but you'll feel better on the other side of it. And we've played so many of them at this point. I think between us, we've touched on every Soulsborn game so far. Like especially anything with like a remote budget kind of thing. I haven't played Salt and Sanctuary, but whatever. Like vast majority of stuff. Played those things. And Neo 2, the reason I avoided it last year or the year that it came out, Times of Flat Circle, was because its reputation was this like super cheap thing that they doubled down on, not necessarily in an all-out negative way, but in like a gotcha kind of way. Like, you know what you're there for. You know that there's going to be enemies dropping out the trees to get you and stuff. And I remember I saw that clip of a guy just walking down a path. The main area was ahead of him and he was in between like forestation, and something just landed out of a tree and killed him in one hit. And I just sort of looked at that and went, I cannot take this on at this time. But as a general sort of mentality that comes through from the devs, do you think that they are prioritizing the like gotcha Soulsborn, oh, hey, you know, there's an invisible platform and you just walked out and now you're dead? Or do you think they're prioritizing like the action, have fun with it? It's a better mix between the two.
I think it's a good mix. I think, you know, there obviously are moments where you get like ambushed or someone does drop from the sky. But for me, like the first time that happens, the more I look around, you know, if I see a dead end and there's like a bit of loot at the end of it, like I'm going to check the ceiling to make sure no one gets the drop on me. And once you do kind of like slip into that mentality, like you can see the enemies playing as there if you're looking for them. If you just tilt the camera up, like you can see a Medusa lady like hanging from the ceiling. You can get out your bow and arrow and like get a critical hit on them that way. You know what I mean? So it's just, there are times where it tries to catch you out, but even then, I think learning its tricks and learning how it tries to catch you out comes with a level of mastery again over the game, because then you feel like more in control. You feel like you're on the same wavelength as the developers, and it's never really felt cheap because the checkpoints, at least so far, are like so short. Like the biggest difference between this and Souls, for my money, is like the level design itself. For me, I love the level design of the Souls games, whether it's the interconnectedness of Dark Souls or the individual levels of Demon Souls, but these are much more kind of like concise and smaller, and they're not as imaginative, but that kind of works for those frustrating moments where you're always like really close to a shrine. So even if you do get like killed, you can easily get back to where you were, and it's only like a few enemies between you. For the most part, there are still, of course, times where you get right to the end and you get knocked all the way back. But that's happened.
That might finish me off, that, to be honest.
Maybe. It's not happened anywhere near as much as it did in Souls. And again, like just because it's different from Souls doesn't mean it's better. I still prefer Souls' level design, but I feel like this does make it feel less frustrating when you get kicked back.
I was going to say, do you think, like, because we're right on the cusp, if it ever comes out, we're on the cusp of Elden Ring coming out. That's been meant to be out for the last, who even knows now, 2 years? Whatever it was. And like the way that Hidetaka Miyazaki and FromSoft seem to be expanding on the, you know, the Souls formula is to take it more open world, if the leaked stuff is correct about what Elden Ring even is. But playing this, I mean, when I went back through the Surge 2 and like Lords of the Fallen, and I play those games that just are that genre. Like I love the little things that those games do, where you can sort of like, you can gamble with your XP and you'll get a multiplier. And if you don't bank it at the checkpoint, you keep going and then you can try and get more, and little mechanical tweaks that I think sort of like flesh it out. Do you think that like this is like, it's enough of, it's playing into the formula and it's like, well, we're going to do it, but like obviously is it Team Ninja? I always get them mixed up with Ninja Theory. Yeah, they're Ninja Gaiden guys. And it's like, you know, they're sort of going, well, we can take this genre and add our flair to the combat, so it's faster and it's more arcadey and it goes a hell of a lot more. Like that feels like enough. Like the genre can exist in itself. It doesn't need to be striving for something else, because I feel like Elden Ring is going to change everything again.
Yeah, totally. I think it's obviously indebted to the Soul series, but it feels very much like a Team Ninja production. You know what I mean? It feels like it's prioritizing this combat, in the changes that it does make from the regular formula. They're justifiable in terms of what this franchise now like just wants to do, I suppose, and its own preoccupations with the combat first and foremost, and then this absolutely wild story on top of it.
Because you play as William in Neo 1, but I think you play as like a custom dude in 2.
Yes, yeah, you can create your character in 2, which
I just like the idea of doing that, because they had all the different ways you could like flesh out like the different move sets, and they have like, you know, like specific counter animations and stuff. But because it was based on like a real dude for Neo 1, but I like that they've maybe got away from that a bit more. Like even in Neo 1, there was that dude that had the cat that was inside his robe. This could just sound like I'm losing my mind more, but it's a thing.
I have no idea. Like, to be honest, I watched the cutscenes. I have no idea what's going on in Neo 2 half the time. Like, it's just wacky
you could just
stuff.
skip.
I don't know. I'm not gonna,
I don't recommend you do. I'm not OZB, but carry on.
Maybe. It depends if I get like 50 hours in. I just want to see the end. Maybe
that was the mode that I got into with Immortals. But like, because I've seen the cats, I've seen the crazy stuff, I've seen like Neo just be more banter, and I'm assuming that's just what they're steering into. We should talk about let's talk a little bit about Ring Fit, because I dove on the Ring Fit when it first came out, because I get every new thing, for better or worse. It's all there, it's all around me. It's just there's cardboard over there for that the Labo. But yeah, what do you think of Ring Fit? Because you finally picked this up. I know Adam Cleary got it as well. I've had a few people sort of get the Ring Fit like a year later or however long it's been. How have you found its approach to digitizing, gamifying exercise?
It's cool, man. Like, I'm really difficult to getting motivated to like exercise. And I tried like some online kind of like courses, but then I got bored because it was the same workouts over and over again. Like, it got cold, so I couldn't really go out much without getting rained or hailed on. But the Ring Fit has been like a great synergy for me. Like, I'll probably put it down eventually, but for now it's got me coming back to it, because I feel like it is much more like responsive and much more inventive than the Wii Fit ever was, for instance, you know, and I feel like the range of exercises that you do are, for me, more satisfying to pull off. And you have this kind of like really nice art style going on. You have a great like kind of synergy between what you're doing and what the character's doing on screen. Like when you're jogging and you can make the character go faster.
I love the thing,
like simple,
if you sprint and you get like fire feet and you can just go for it.
It's like the feedback, that video game feedback, like implanted onto real world exercise. And for me, it's more enticing to pick it up and try it. Not only because I'm getting, you know, a bit of a workout out of it, but also because I'm getting hench, but also because I want to see, like, I want to go on these adventures. I want to take down these bosses. Like, it's cool. Like that gamified, I don't know, maybe it's just me personally because we've grown up on video games, but that gamified element encourages me to invest in it more. And it gives me a kind of set goal that just free form exercise doesn't really, because here I'm like, well, I'm going to set my reminders. I'm going to get so far. I'm going to do a couple of levels. And that's like, cool, that's a goal for the day. Whereas otherwise it's like, well, I'll do this one YouTube video and then probably have a pizza, you know what I mean?
Because I like I like all the reminder stuff. I think that it's hard to like it's easy to overlook how much of an actual RPG it is. Like, it's not going to be fully fleshed out, but there is like crafting. You can get different like items to put together. You can make different like milkshakes and energy shakes, and that'll change how much damage you do when you're in combat. The combat itself is turn-based based on which exercise you're doing. So if it's like a twist on the spot thing, you'll attack like 3 dudes at once as you go back and forward. Or you can do like a squat crunch thing, which is like a charge attack, and then it's like a burst. I just love that they implemented all that stuff. Like, that got me invested in it way more. The thing is, though, I'm not a fit man, so I'm knackered after each one of those things. Like, because it always does that thing where it's like you can do a warm up and then you do like a level, and like, you know, maybe because basically the big final boss with who keeps escaping and you keep fighting him is that bodybuilding dragon dude. I forget what his name is. But you fight him a few different times. And so for me, every time I do like 2 or 3 levels and it pops up and it's like, hey, are you okay? Are you sure? You take a break? I'm like, I'm done for the day. Like, I don't need you to take a break. I need you to be away from me for like a day. Because I'm shattered doing the warm-up stuff. But the overall point is that I feel like it really is a good exercise regimen. Like, you can set different things, like the tension on the Pilates ring thing, so you can like it's going to test your full strength. And I just think that side of it, I was like, oh, I am actually completely shattered after doing this, which I wasn't after Ring Fit.
Totally. Like, I'm not qualified enough to say it's like the perfect workout or it's going to change your life or anything. But unlike a lot of other gimmicky kind of like workout games, I actually feel like I'm getting something out of this. And when I finish it, I don't feel like that was a waste of time. Like you said, I can like, you can feel it, you know, in your body and stuff. And it feels better to do it, even if it's just to get moving, you know what I mean? Because that's so hard to do right now, you know. It's like just to be able to get the blood flowing, to move around the flat a little bit. Like, even that is so welcome. Like, even if it's not turning me into Dwayne The Rock Johnson, you know what I mean? That's fine. Don't need, don't need to be Dwayne The Rock Johnson. It's okay.
You have to start somewhere. I like the offline mode as well, where you can set it to be like, the game's not on, but I want the ring to still catalog and count how many crunches I'm going to do. So it's like a movie mode. I think that's cool. We should end on your addiction to Call of Duty Warzone, because it's been a whole year, mate. What are you doing? What's this?
It's a sickness, right? A lot of these games we're talking about now have got me through Lockdown 3 in particular, but Warzone has been there from the start, since March, and I thought I would get
which
sick
feels
of it
like forever ago.
I know. It's almost a full year ago, man, like, which is crazy. But yeah, like Warzone has been the one constant in my life. Like it's almost like a job now. Every single time I finish work and I go on with the boys and play at least 2 hours of Warzone every night. Like
Sweet
it might
Lord.
not sound like a lot to people who put hours and hours into games, but I played this thing for 8 days of in-game playtime now, which for me personally is ridiculous. I've never played anything for 8 days. I always move on to something else. Like I'll play something for a big chunk, but then I'll just move on and like replace it. But Warzone has been there because not only do I think it's a really great battle royale game that constantly updates, has a lot of cool things, but like it gives us now the opportunity to like communicate with people in a way that isn't kind of like dwelling on what's happening in the world or dwelling on work or dwelling on our lives. Like it's the one thing that sort of like demands my full concentration. Like I'm not playing Warzone thinking about the news or thinking about anything that's happening because I don't have time to think about that. What I'm thinking about is that sniper on that roof going to take me out before I can revive my friend. You know what I mean? And that totality of it. And I think the variance in the combat encounters is what keeps it constantly fresh, because although so many games will demand that same attention, like I'm hundreds of hours into this game now, and the final firefight I did like last night, I've never had that arise before because it's so naturally occurring, and every single session is something new. Even if you go into the same places, like no two firefights feel the same, and that constant sense of variance is like, it's so good for me because I fell out of love with Call of Duty for a little while because of how rote it felt. I was sick of running down the same corridors, doing the same moves, playing the same game modes that ultimately, even if you're playing with other people, feel too limited and too familiar. Whereas Warzone is kind of like blown that open to the point where I'm way, to be honest, it's like your sickness with Immortals. I'm way too invested in it and I should have a break from it. But at the same time, why?
It's become part of you. I think this is this thing that a lot of the like top tier publishers are like betting on. Like if we just sort of keep giving you the treadmill, keep giving you the unlocks. Oh, it's this week, it's this month's event, it's this thing. Come back, guys. Don't go to somewhere else. And for the longest time, we were always, and I mostly maintain this, that you can't juggle multiple of these things at once. Like I just saw that Division 2 is going to have new content for the first time in like a few years. And I'm like, I can't get back in. I can't start playing that as well as like the Immortal season pass and like Avengers is going to resurrect itself at some point. I just kind of had to try and, I mean, who cares about Avengers, but you know, you're going to try and juggle a few different things. And so with Warzone, I didn't give it I gave it a few rounds and I was like, it's a battle royale, whatever. But like seeing it have this much of a hold on you, I'm like, oh, that's like, there must be something else to it than just it's Call of Duty Battle Royale. Cause I feel like Blackout didn't work at all. Was it Blackout the original one?
Yeah, Blackout did not resonate with me at all. But this one just seems like so refined, and I love like the refreshes that happen like every season, even if it's just as simple as changing what loot you can get. Like to me, that makes it interesting. And they haven't really added anything big in terms of like changing the map or anything. It is just like the map itself for me is so solid. It's so big that, and the mechanics are so refined, and I love everything they've added to like keep you engaged. Like obviously you've got like self revives, so you've got the ability to buy people back, you've got the random chance of having everyone who's in spectating like be bought back just because there's a jailbreak going on, and all of those things. It just makes you kind of want to jump back into it because you're not having, for the most part, long stretches where you're just doing nothing, which was always my issue with like other battle royales.
Exactly. I didn't even know they did that. I know when they did the Gulag thing, I thought that was cool that you can fight another player who's just died and you can fight for like to have another chance. I didn't know they'd done all those other things where they've got like self revives and like you said, like everybody comes back. That stuff's great because for me the biggest problem with battle royale is the downtime, and is the thing that made me go, well, the thing that I enjoyed the most about or at least part of the because obviously there's the tension side of it, there's the hiding, there's sort of like hybrid stealth and action. But once I engage another player, I'm like, oh, Call of Duty, you play so good, I just want to do PvP. And I jump back into doing some of the PvP thing. But if they can like mix that and make it so you're not just sort of like waiting around, like I want to play a Call of Duty, I want to Call of Duty. If they've managed to get like on top of that, then that's a game changer.
I think the big difference is I fully agreed with you because I remember talking to you, and we probably even did a video on it when Blackout came out. We were just like, well, every time we get in a firefight, we just want to play Call of Duty multiplayer because it feels like Call of Duty multiplayer. But the big difference in Warzone for me is that the gunplay of Warzone feels different from Modern Warfare's gunplay. Like obviously the animations and stuff are the same, but the amount of health you have, the difference in combat engagements, for instance, the way you've got to think about different things. You got to think about someone potentially self-reviving or getting their friend up, or like only downing someone. You got to think about whether other weapons become more viable when the meta is not broken. You can use like a bunch of different sniper rifles and SMGs. You can go in with a riot shield, distract people, and there's just a bit more to it for me. Compared to the regular gunplay. So I'm not feeling like, oh, I wish I could just play a Nuketown.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's like obviously like Call of Duty, the emergence of like Twitch shooters and like reaction times and not necessarily planning a bunch of stuff out. The way you described that made me think of old school Halo, where it's just sort of like, I know Ewan mentioned it on the recent Chatty Face thing that'll be going out on Friday, but like that whole way that we used to play Halo, the mentality that was in there, that sort of Doom channeled a little bit of, like the whole combat chess thing, of like sort of planning 3 steps ahead of you, or like in Halo's case, throwing a bubble shield down so you can deflect a Spartan laser or whatever. If they're pulling a little bit of that in, or you know what, mate, I'm going to download Warzone, right? We've got a lunch break straight after this. That's the thing I'm going to do, and I'll dive back in because I haven't tried it since it initially came out in March. And if these features were there back then, or at least in regards to the everybody reviving at once and stuff like that, like I said, I like the Gulag thing. But
do it, man, because we mentioned him twice now, but I know Adam Cleary's recently gotten into Warzone as well. He just recently got his first win, and he's loving it as well.
And he was Jimmy Fortnite as well.
Exactly. Don't take my warped 8 days playtime view of it. Take the advice of someone just getting into it who also thinks it's good.
A man who was forever telling us to play Fortnite, and we just stopped replying on the group chat because bless him. And I don't know how to tell him that I don't want to play Fortnite. But if he's getting into the old COD, then call me a fishmonger because I'll be getting it. But yes, let us know what you think down in the comments below. Which games have you been playing? What do you think of Immortals, Phoenix Rising, Ring Fit, Warzone, and Neo 2 if you've been playing them? And we'll do some sort of other banter like this at the same time next week. For now, though, I've been Scott Tilford from WhatCulture.com, joined by Josh Brown.
Goodbye.
We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Yeah.